Hi, everyone. I again am so sorry that I had to cancel class last minute. That is not at all my norm. Anyway, so I wanted to go over what it is that we were going to go over today because you still do have homework, this body paragraphs, but I wanted to go over things. Um, so, first of all, this plan for the rest of the semester. Um, I didn't really realize it at first, but we have very few times left that we are meeting before the final. So today, the 30th, we'll go over all the things. And then we only have 4 more class periods before the final. Um, so with that, I wanted to let you know what it is that the plan is for the rest of the course. Um, we started off the class pretty slow because I know that for the majority of you, this was your first class or at least your first semester at college. And so I kind of wanted to ease you into it and I wanted to do that. But we're going to ramp it up just a bit. But with that, I wanted to let you know what we're doing. So last night, the revised outline was due. I'm going to look over that, get some feedback to you as soon as I possibly can. This is what, excuse me, this is what we're going to talk about today. So next week, what's due is 2 or 3 body paragraphs for peer feedback. That is completion points only. You do it, you try, full credit. Like that's legit it. This is what we'll talk about. This is the purpose. The week after that, the 13th, is the rough draft of your essay. That's going to be due. I also want you to watch a documentary and take notes by that point. Both of these are assignments. You can watch any documentary that you would like. I will find some as well and post some as options if you aren't really sure what it is that you'd like to watch. So there's that. The reason I want you to watch a documentary is because your final is a documentary. It is going to be taking this essay that we are starting to work on and making an argumentative documentary for a different audience. So your essay is for one audience that has been determined, which is on your revised outline. You have specified who your audience is. You will figure out another separate audience, and then your documentary is going to be based towards that group. Some of your evidence might change depending on the group. Some of it might stay the same. But that's what it is that you're finalized. Creating that documentary, doing some different steps in that. The final draft is of the essay is due on the 23rd, the week before Thanksgiving. I think it's the Saturday, I want to say, or Sunday before Thanksgiving. Oh, poop. I need to change this. This should not say the 20th. That should say the 20th. 10% extra credit for submitting it on the 20th. I'll fix that. Because I want as much time as possible to grade those. So if you turn it in early, you can get extra credit. That will allow me to have Thanksgiving week to look over things a little bit more. So that would be great. Then you're going to have an annotated bibliography. We will talk about that more. And then on the day of the final is when your annotated bibliography is done and your documentary is done. And then you're going to be presenting them. The documentary is going to be between 3 and 7 minutes. We have 30 people in class approximately if everybody comes. Obviously, I'm not sure whether we would actually get through all of those. So the presentations are going to be in groups. We'll talk about that as it gets a little closer, but this is really important. I very, very highly recommend that wherever it is that you write down when things are due, do that. Okay. Most of these are going to be due the night before, as has been the case, but this is like the date of the class type of thing. We do not have class, we do not have class Thanksgiving week, because our class would land on Thanksgiving. So obviously that's a no. So just so you know. Then, I don't know why there's an extra page. Then I wanted to go into what this writing assignment is, just give a little bit more detail. So I revised the prompt a little bit to make it a little bit more clear. The first draft of your outline that I graded yesterday, I was just grading for completeness. But I did notice that there was quite a bit of like almost story in it. And so I wanted to revise this to make it a little bit more clear. This is not a story that you're writing. You are creating an argument on a current debatable issue. This is just kind of like, oh, what's an issue? What's something you need that's unfair? What's something you agree or disagree strongly about? Pretty much you can write about anything that you want that's debatable. You're going to take a clear position, support it using evidence. We've talked about that. So as far as what the essay final draft is going to be, it needs to be between 700 and 1,600 words. So that just ramps it up a little bit. Not too bad. The last essay was between 500 and 900 words. So this kind of splits a little bit of the difference between that. So 700 to 1,600 words. Again, you're taking a clear stance on something. You have specific evidence. You do not need to use all of these types of evidence. This is just a list of, hey, remember when we talked about types of evidence? These are what those are. But it depends on what appeals to your intended audience, which we talked about last week. You need to have a counter, but that is already in your outline. It needs to be in MLA format. You'll have a works cited, which we will talk about next week. So as far as the grade goes, so I hadn't really finished this yet. I need to do things. Okay. Anyway, okay. So 35 points of your total grade is the writing process. I changed this up a little bit. For the last essay, the process draft was 50 points, which I think was a little bit too much. The final draft wasn't quite enough, and the writing process wasn't quite enough. So I just changed that up a little bit. But this still emphasizes the fact that writing is a process. It is not something that is a one and done type of thing. You've already done the outline, that's already graded. You've already done the revised outline that you turned in yesterday. The body paragraphs that are going to be due next week at the beginning of class are going to be 10 points. And then you're going to do 2 sets of peer reviews. One is going to be next week for the body paragraphs, and one is going to be the week after for the rough draft. So this is essentially split into 5 points each. So 5 points for next week, 5 points for the week after. The process draft is 30 points. Again, I'm looking for effort and completion, an actual full-on draft. So because the final draft is between 700 and 1,600 words, your rough draft needs to be between 600 and 1,700 words. So that way you're not having to add too much and you're not having to delete too much. So it's a 100-word cushion on either side for the rough draft. And then the final draft is 35. And please, please, please shows clear improvements based on the feedback. Make sure you take a look at the feedback that I give on the rough draft. It just, I make the comments and give suggestions for a reason, and it's intended to help you on your final draft. So this is the plan for the rest of the course. I realize that December 11th might seem far away, but we're almost in November. Like it's going quick. So Please know that these things are going on. Please know that you should be coming to class every day. I know that's kind of ironic for me to say when I had to call out today. So please come to class every time. If there's something going on, let me know, obviously. But like the peer review, you can only do that in class. Um, the only day that, well, we'll talk about that as we come closer. So there's that. So after that, I wanted to talk about how to write a body paragraph. So there's your writer's handbook. We've talked about it before. Last week we looked at page 21. Today we're looking at 22. This is a graphic organizer that is intended to help you on your rough draft. Hold on one sec. So this is a graphic organizer that you can use to help you with your body paragraph. Essentially, each one of these boxes would be a sentence, or possibly two if you're going into the commentary. So you start off with a topic sentence. Remember, a topic sentence needs to be arguable. It needs to be well worded. It needs to be clear, right? It needs to be specific, not too specific, nuanced, all the things that we talked about last week, all the things that you should have checked with your revised outline to see if all that was there. Then you have your first key idea. Do not go straight into your evidence. You need to have this first idea first. If you start with evidence, you're not like before you get into your first key idea of like the reason why. So if you think of this as this is my argument, this is the first reason why of my argument. And this is evidence supporting that. And again, your outline does this. I had that purposefully to make sure that it kind of set you up for this. But if you start with evidence before you get into your first key idea, your audience won't really know the connection. And then if you don't have a topic sentence or a key idea or a reason, and you just start with evidence, you can't talk about anything other than that evidence. You need to start each paragraph with your own words and end each paragraph with your own words. So, topic sentence, first idea, concrete detail, meaning specific evidence, commentary, meaning explanation, at least 2 sentences, more like 2 to 3. Then transitioning to your next idea, evidence, explanation. Depending on how many key ideas you have is going to depend. So sometimes you might have 2 pieces of evidence. If you do that, then it would be first key idea, concrete detail, meaning evidence, explanation. Then another piece of evidence, then explanation. So it kind of depends on how many reasonings you have. So this is page 22. It goes to 22 to 23 in the writer's handbook. Then on page 24 is an example. So you are going to start with the body paragraphs instead of the introduction and conclusion. The reason for that is because people often have a harder time with the introduction and conclusion. And really the most important part of the introduction is your thesis, and you already have your thesis. So we're going to start with the body and kind of go out from there. And this is doing the same. So for this sample paragraph, there is the thesis that this student was writing about. It was a rhetorical analysis of Jimmy Carter's speech. So their thesis, Jimmy Carter expresses his desire to preserve the Arctic refuge through the use of pathos and ethos. It's arguable because you're saying what it is that is being used. It's arguable. So then you get into your topic sentence. By inserting strong language and emotional phrases, Carter builds an argument in the hopes of inspiring others to believe in his cause. Your topic sentence relates directly to your thesis. Your topic sentence is a reason for your thesis. And then your key point is a reason for your topic sentence. So it's taking bigger ideas and breaking them down. Okay. So, first key idea. He uses descriptive words to create an image, an experience, and empathy within the reader. The imagery crafted by Carter depicts the Arctic refuge. So sometimes it might be 2 or 3 sentences explaining this first key idea before you get into your evidence. It kind of just depends. Then there's the evidence, then there's the explanation of that. Then they get into the next key idea. Similarly, Carter includes the benefits that would come for America if the Arctic refuge is preserved. In this case, one sentence is totally fine, but there is a transition here, similarly, to help bridge that connection between these two ideas, between this idea and this idea. Evidence, explanation. So when you have a body paragraph, you are starting with your own words and you are ending with your own words. You never want to end with somebody else's words, because then you are implying that what you have to say about it doesn't matter. That all that matters is what somebody else has to say. And that's not the case. You have important things to say to your argument. If you are only focusing on the evidence, you don't really have an argument. So I wanted to show some of the examples from the reading that you were supposed to do, and hopefully did. I am going to give everybody credit for that, give the benefit of the doubt, just because I had to miss class today, and I felt bad about that. So looking at this reviewing student samples, I wanted to show some examples of things that were done well and things that were done not quite as well. So this one is from Abortions with Down Syndrome. And the first body paragraph of this, I wanted to point out, please don't do this. I don't really know anything about this topic. Don't admit that. You're essentially telling your audience, I don't really know anything about this, but this is what I found out, and please believe me. Like, why would the person believe you? It cuts yourself off and doesn't allow you to have the credibility that you need. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. I also wanted to mention that you should not end with somebody else's ideas. That was kind of the main thing from that one. With child YouTubers, this first body paragraph looks great. Let's take a look at it. There are many people that make their living from creating YouTube videos, and a few are earning a lot of money. For example, Bobby Hoyt, a personal finance expert who helps other millennials earn more through side hustles, says, and so then there's the evidence, and then there's more evidence, and then there's more evidence. Then there's, based on this, people get tempted. Then there's more evidence. Then there's more evidence. Then there's more evidence. And then there's a little bit of their own. So even though this looks really good, it's mostly evidence that they have. And you do need to back up what you're saying with reasons and with support and evidence. But if you don't have much of your own interpretation and explanation of that, again, you're not really giving your argument the best chance. As opposed to, how do pandemics affect young adults' coming of age milestones? This body paragraph is great. Okay. Moving out of their parents' house is a milestone that every 20-something yearns to reach. This is a good topic sentence. It is arguable because it's not necessarily true that every 20-something wants to reach that. This is something that COVID-19 has ruined for many young adults. Even if they had previously moved out, many young adults are returning home due to losing their jobs or just general fear of the virus. So, starting with a lot of their own thoughts, their own ideas. According to Benjamin Ostries from the LA Times, I really like the way they did this. They explained who the person was and why we should listen to them. This part you wouldn't have it. These decisions to stay or go have been made under pressure, sometimes in haste, because the future is so uncertain and fear is at the forefront of everyone's mind. This is also really well done, incorporating the evidence into their own sentence. So even though there's evidence, the emphasis is on what they have to say about it. Something else that is very difficult for a lot of families is gaining that extra person back into their lives. As everyone involved in this situation is now adults, there's a fine balance that parents need to strike between communicating the seriousness of following rules and young people's desire for the independence they had when they were living on their own. This can cause a lot of issues and tensions in a household, as it is challenging to find the perfect balance, blah, blah, blah. So all of this is their own thoughts. Then they have a little bit of evidence of personal, this isn't personal, but this is anecdote because it's about somebody else, but then they bring it back. So there is quite a bit of evidence here, but it doesn't overpower what it is that the person is trying to say. How do pandemics affect young adults coming of age milestones? This is what it is that you are striving for, of having evidence, but not letting it overshadow what it is that you are saying. So we're going to talk about using the Hartnell library and evaluating sources. So you might not have to use any outside evidence for your essay. It could be that you are using historical evidence and personal and anecdotes, and you already know that information and you don't need to look it up. And more importantly, your audience would be swayed by those types of evidence. But if you need to look something up, a good place to do that is the Hartnell Library. So the way that you would find that is go to the Hartnell website, look for the library, but I also have the link here. So we're going to go over how to do this, different things that I would recommend. So one option when you're at the library, and the way that you would find it, by the way, is Learn Library. But there's this option of a OneSearch. I don't particularly care for OneSearch very much because it gives you everything under the sun. It gives you every instance of every database for things that you're looking for. So if I was looking up equity and learning, this is something from a different class that I'm teaching, and I just looked that up, this is going to give me every instance where equity or learning is used. That is 20,524 results. That's insane. There's no way that you can get through all of that. So I wouldn't really recommend using OneSearch because it's going to take you more time and it's not super effective. So instead, when you're at this homepage for the library, go to Research Resources. And then there are different databases that you can use. It gives different options for different things. CQ Researcher is a good place to start to look for information. I wouldn't say that it's perfect by any stretch of the means. Let me log in real quick. I'm sorry. It's just a way for you to start to get some understanding. So let's say that you wanted to talk about COVID-19 and COVID and education, and like the effects of COVID on education. And you're like, I don't really know where to start with this. So it gives you different options, giving 2,700 results. That's a lot. So I'm going to want something published maybe within the last couple of years. And then I'm going to apply the filter, which gives me way less, which is great. So I'm going to just pick this first one, even though it doesn't actually perfectly fit. I'm going to pretend like it does. The good thing about CQ research is it gives reports. Again, I wouldn't use this necessarily as my source, but it's a good jumping off point. So the um, the thing about it, when it gives a report, it gives an overview of the situation, background, the current situation, pros and cons, discussion questions, all the fun stuff. So if you are doing in the future, say you're doing something, or even if you're thinking of, I don't know what to put for my counterclaim, go to pro and con. What are some different things that people say about whatever your topic is? The bibliography is great because these are the sources they used. So you can perhaps use these sources in your own. So again, I wouldn't recommend, no thanks. I wouldn't recommend using CQ Researcher exclusively by any stretch of the means, but it's a good place to start. I would recommend using EBSCOhost. EBSCOhost allows you to search a little bit closer, where one search doesn't really do that, and CQ Researcher isn't going to give you like articles or whatever. So let's say that I wanted to look at something having to do with COVID and educational outcomes and disengagement. Because I'm like, oh, well, after COVID, people haven't been as engaged. And then that means that their grades and their learning has gone down. So I have this. So these are Boolean indicators, and means make sure that it has this and this. It has to have both. Or means like if I want COVID or pandemic. And I could even add that here. I can do COVID or pandemic. I could add a row. I could delete a row. But I want COVID because I want that specifically. Not means if you're like, oh, well, I'm searching this and this thing is coming up a lot and I don't want that up there, then you can add a not. I would recommend full text because if you don't choose full texts, then you're not going to be able to see everything that's written. And so it's not going to be very helpful for you. So then I'm going to search. No results. Cool beans. All right. So that might happen. I'm going to go back and maybe take out disengage. Let's see. All right, that's better. So 397. So when you're doing a search, you might have to kind of look and see like, all right, is this really what I'm doing? So this is in Guatemala. It's not really what I'm looking for. So I wouldn't use that. I can say like, do I want in the past 5 years? Yes, because it has to do with COVID. Maybe I only want to look at magazines. Then this gives me just the magazines. And then you can access it in different ways. When we talk about the works cited next week, this would be something that would be really helpful. I don't know why it's not giving. Oh, because it's a magazine. But anyway, okay. So here's this. Then from there, we talked about what is the CRAAP method. This is a way to evaluate sources. If you're using the library resources, they are more likely to be valid, meaning they're more likely to be something that you can use and are good sources. But it's always good to check them when you do your annotated bibliography, which is not going to be for a little while, and we'll talk about it more as it gets closer. You are going to write about your sources using the CRAAP method. So for each source, let's say I was doing This one. And I'm looking at the full PDF. Oops. All right. So currency. When was it written? Is it current enough? There are certain times, this was published Wednesday, November 2020. I would not say that this is recent enough. If I'm wanting to talk about the effects of COVID after the fact, and what it has done to education, November was only a few months after we went into lockdown. That's not good. So I wouldn't want to use this source. So it depends on what it is that you're doing. Yes, this is only 5 years old, but it doesn't fit what I'm going for. Now, let's say that I was writing a paper for my history class about the Civil War. It doesn't matter if it was 2020. I mean, in the last 10 years, even, there hasn't been new discoveries related to the Civil War. So older sources are totally fine. So this has to go with currency. And does your topic require current information, or is older sources okay? Relevance, meaning does it go along with what it is that I'm going for? Like if I'm writing about um, the effects of COVID on education, does it relate to that? I've already knocked this one out because of the date. So I would already be like, all right, I'm not going to use this one. So, I don't know. Let's say this one, just for the sake of argument. I read through it. I'm like, oh, okay. This has to do with teaching and distance learning, and it has to do with all the things that I want. So, yes, it is relevant to what it is that I am wanting. Who is the author? Is it credible? So, this is Kathleen Budge and William Parrott. So, I would look them up. Oops. That didn't actually copy and paste, but I would look them up, see who they are, see what credibility they have, because the more credible my sources are, the more credible I am. So do they have the authority to talk about it? Is it that will ensure that it's probably more accurate, which goes along to the next part. Accuracy, and I'm sorry this video is so incredibly long, but accuracy has to do with, is the information is correct? You can check this a couple different ways, and one thing that I really like about this source that I'm giving you is it asks you questions to get you to think about this, but can you find the same information other places? Has it been reviewed or refereed? So one thing that you can do when you're doing a search is, oh, I want only peer-reviewed information. And because I wanted magazines, that's probably not going to work, because magazines tend not to be peer-reviewed. If I didn't want magazines and I did want peer-reviewed. Okay, so a peer-reviewed article means that other people have looked at it and said, yes, this is correct. So anything that's peer reviewed, you can assume is accurate. If something is not peer reviewed, you do need to make sure that you're looking at other information, and, seeing if the same information can be found in multiple places. Purpose has a lot to do with bias. What is it that the author is trying to do? Are they trying to persuade you, inform you, entertain you? Because the purpose is going to determine what they say. So it's important to think about those things. Is it objective? Are they, like, what is it that they are doing? So that's what we would have gone over today. For homework, you do need to do your body paragraphs, 2 or 3 of your body paragraphs. This needs to be done before class starts in order to receive credit. It is a, did you do it? Did you not? 10 points. And that's basically it. If you don't do it, then you're not going to be able to engage in the peer review, and then that'll be an issue. So please just make sure you do your body paragraphs. Again, always do not use AI. I want your writing, nobody else's. If you have any questions on anything, please let me know. Again, I'm so sorry for missing class today. I will see you next week.